Hey!
Happy New Year.
What's up, everybody?
Happy New Year.
Happy 2018. Welcome into The Spread, NESN.com's football picks video podcast. I am, this makes sense, I'm NESN.com's Mike Cole. That's Ricky Doyle. That is Andre Kachaturian. We're here, as always, to make our Against the Spread picks, hence the name The Spread, for the NFL games. Usually we do 3 of the best games. We'll do some locks and upsets, but no, it's playoffs time. We're going to do them all.
By the way, welcome back. You missed last week.
I'm glad
that's true.
You pointed that out at the top, too, the Against the Spread, because I feel like there's a misconception in some of the comments that we get week to week as to whether we're picking the game outright or picking it against the spread.
Correct.
So
yeah.
that's important. No.
Figure it out. As you mentioned, we this is wild card weekend. It's a weekend of buys for some teams. We took our bye last week, week 17. It was a holiday break. Week 17 is almost impossible to predict, and we just figured nobody's going to watch it, so why go through the hassle?
I mean, some people would have watched it.
Yeah, I know, but I was on
Jonathan
vacation. I just didn't really feel it. Yeah.
It is tough because some quarterbacks are resting.
Yeah.
And it's a tough week to pick.
So
Usually in the fantasy realm, you punt on week 17, you wrap your league up in week 16. I would do the same as far as picking games from a betting standpoint.
that being said,
we made our picks.
We did make picks, correct.
And just for record-keeping sake, and speaking of the records, here are the final standings after week 17. Why, oh my, that was fantastic. Me and Mike going straight down to the end. Look at that.
unbelievable.
Both of us 4 games over 500, tied for first place. And, we're going to have the playoffs to settle our tie.
Yep.
Ricky, I don't know what happened to you, man.
We're trusting the process over
Just
here.
put 20.
We're eyeing the high draft
What
pick
is that?
next season.
24 games under 500.
Yeah,
but,
we got into a late season swoon that we just really couldn't bounce back from.
That's okay. Before we get to our playoffs,
Clean slate now.
let's go back to August where we made our preseason picks. Interesting stuff happened. Let's look at mine first, that's fine. Let's look at mine first.
There we go.
I picked the Giants to win the East. That was wrong. I got 5 right. I picked the Saints to win the South and the Rams to win the West. Falcons were a wild card team. And obviously the easy ones, the Patriots, Steelers, we all got right. I don't know why I picked the Dolphins as a wild card team. Texans might have won the South if Deshaun Watson stayed healthy. We all picked the Packers to win the NFC North, but Aaron Rodgers got injured. And my Chargers.
Tough Super Bowl selection for you, though.
Giants versus, hey, it was tough for you as well.
No,
You picked the Raiders in there.
I know.
And you picked the Seahawks to get there. So we all picked the team to go to the Super Bowl that didn't even make the playoffs. Let's go to Ricky's. Ricky, let's go to yours. Let's get yours. I want to take a look at yours, Ricky.
Yeah, take a look at it. There it is.
There it is. Ricky, you also picked the Giants. We all picked the Giants to win the East. It was bad. But you picked the Titans to win the South, but because they're a wild card team, I'll give that to you.
Look at some of, from a prop bet special as well, because
Yes.
I think all of us we nailed a few things on this.
Yes, you convinced me to pick the Rams to win the West.
We were buying into the Rams.
And you're the only team. You're the only person who picked the Eagles to make the playoffs. You had them as a wild card team. I'll give that. I'll put a green over there for you. And Mike, let's finish off with you. Mike Cole, Arizona Cardinals wild card team. I don't know. Denver Broncos. You were really high on Hugh Jackson.
Cardinals pick wasn't terrible. I mean, they were.
Yeah, they were bad.
David Johnson
What
got
are they,
hurt.
8-8,
Carson
7-9?
Palmer got. They played strong all the way to the end. Yeah, that Giants pick obviously was really bad.
You picked Carolina and
Seattle.
Atlanta to go. That was good.
Carolina.
And the Titans, that was a good one too.
Yeah.
You picked them to win the South, but they got us a wild card. We still gave that.
Denver,
to you.
Houston.
Cardinals are one of those teams that just had a very just rolled down the hill basically.
Story.
Kind of like the Titans.
At the end of the day, Ricky, you picked 6 of the playoff teams, and Mike and I picked 5 of the playoff teams. So while we won the regular season, you won the
I'm more of
preseason.
a bigger picture guy.
Yeah,
When
big picture.
That's how you
yeah.
secure the duck boats.
Yeah, cool.
Tell you what, there would be a
win.
lot more green if there weren't so many friggin' injuries in this.
Yeah, exactly,
This season,
yeah.
But it is what it is. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, that Chargers one, breaks my heart.
All right. So that actually, it's an interesting segue. Let me just pull this up real quick. This is from the NFL Communications Notes.
We're going to talk about a couple teams in this that I'm not convinced they're any better than the Chargers. The Chargers are better teams than the teams that are playing this weekend.
Absolutely. They finished 6th in yards per play. Let me tell you a quick stat as he finds something. Look at this. Look at all this blue. You see all this blue?
Yeah.
This is the top 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, top 10 teams in yards per play differential. 9 of the top 10 teams made the playoffs. The only one that didn't were the LA Chargers. Don't tell me the Chargers aren't a good team, because they were a great team.
But we're not here to talk about the Chargers. We're actually here to talk about teams that did make the playoffs and had enough wins to get into the playoffs, which is all that really matters this time of year. There are 8 new playoffs teams this year.
Crazy.
8 new teams in the playoff field. I think that's the most all time, if I'm not mistaken, since at least the most since 1990. I think it's the most all time. 7 teams in 1990, new playoff teams. So 8 teams, including it's just crazy. We'll get into this a little bit more. But the Jaguars, the Bills, the Rams, the Eagles, these are all playoff teams this year. Crazy.
Very goofy AFC.
Yeah.
Who are the repeats? The Falcons?
Falcons, Patriots,
Chiefs,
and Steelers. So, all right. We'll start with we'll go in chronological order. We'll get into the wild card games. Obviously, playing for a chance to go get whooped on by somebody in the divisional round. We'll start Saturday afternoon. I'll tell you what, the weather is going to suck this weekend, pretty much across the country. So at least there's football.
Not in New Orleans. Climate control.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm just saying. I'm not going outside this weekend, and especially not going outside on Saturday when it's going to be about 4 degrees outside, like 10 below the wind chill. I'm going to stay in. I'm going to watch the Tennessee Titans go on the road to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. As it stands right now, and this is according to our friends at OddsShark, again, OddsShark hooks us up with all of the lines that we use for this and a lot of the info we use, so thanks to them, as always, for being a great partner. They have the Chiefs as 9-point favorites right now against the Titans. This game is in Kansas City. Total sits at 44 right now. Relatively low scoring. The weather, if you're wondering, going to be 31 degrees, clear. Going to be a little bit of wind, but not too much. It's just a cold day in Kansas City. Again, Chiefs 9-point favorites. Ricky, where do you lay on this one?
I look at this, and there's not a lot to like about the Titans limping into the playoffs.
It's tough. Yeah.
Only 2 teams of the 12 that made the playoffs with negative point differentials, the Titans and the Bills. Titans also have the worst turnover differential of teams. But I still look at this, and it's too many points. It's too many points in a playoff game, especially with the Chiefs. I mean, I know they've righted the ship over here the last few weeks. That defense playing really well, creating turnovers. I think 12 takeaways over the last 4 games. So, they're getting hot at the right time, but I still look back to a little bit of that late season swoon they had, almost knocked them from the playoffs in favor of the Chargers that we mentioned. So I look at this, and it's too many points. I do think the Chiefs win the game, though. I think that's why I wanted to make it a point of emphasis to say we're picking these games against the spread, especially with a lot of these spreads being a lot more than you typically see in the postseason. So I'll take the points. I'll take the Titans, but I do think the Chiefs win the game.
I tried every reason to agree with you when I was looking at this game yesterday, Ricky. It was like Titans, Chiefs. 9 points, it's huge. The Titans have to cover that, right? Then I looked at the turnovers. I think turnovers are going to be huge in this game. Marcus Mariota, again, finishes the season with more interceptions than touchdowns, which is obviously, that's something like, a quarterback like, Josh McCown does. But Marcus Mariota did it. And then the Titans, they haven't had a turnover-free game since week 3. They've had a turnover in every game since week 3. That's bad. Meanwhile, the Chiefs, they've had 9 turnover-free games. Alex Smith is really good at protecting the football. The Chiefs this year, they've thrown 8 interceptions, but it's important to note that 3 of those interceptions came from Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce had an interception too. Travis Kelce threw an interception. Hopefully they don't do weird things like that in this game. I don't think they will. They'll play conservative style. They'll run the ball, eat the clock, force a few turnovers, and cover that spread at home, where they thrive.
I am also going to take the Titans along with Ricky. I think the Chiefs win this game, but 9 points is a lot of points in a playoff game. And again, I think that Tennessee is just feisty enough to kind of keep it close. One thing you do mention, the turnover differential. Kansas City was plus 15 this year. Yeah. That's the best turnover differential. Like, if they won the Super Bowl, it'd be the best other than the 2013 Seattle Seahawks in the last 10 years. They kind of crunched a lot of these different numbers to see how teams stack up against Super Bowl contenders or Super Bowl winners in the last 10 years. Only Seattle, of those 10 Super Bowl winning teams, had a better turnover margin than the Chiefs do this year.
So you're saying basically doesn't matter?
No, I'm not saying. No.
In terms of winning the Super Bowl.
No, I think it does. It does matter. I think that's the thing, is that this is a teams that take care of the football usually. Right. Again, it wasn't like the Chargers or the Seahawks were miles ahead of other teams. Right. I'm just saying this is on par with a Super Bowl winning level.
You picked the Titans, that's why I got
right. Yeah, no, I'm just pointing out that this is not necessarily something I love. But that being said, I think the way that you remedy that, if you're the Titans, is to run the ball. Now, that's all the Titans really know how to do. That's all they're really good at. The DeMarco Murray injury kind of gives me a little bit of reason to kind of pause and say, well, I don't know, especially because I was reading on ESPN.com. I thought this was interesting. We all kind of sat here and said, what are the Titans doing not giving the ball to Derrick Henry? The thing with Derrick Henry is, I guess according to a scout, is he kind of is always looking for the home run as opposed to hitting singles, which is more of the DeMarco Murray. But still, Henry ran the ball more yards per carry than Murray did. I think you kind of feed him early and often. They've got to shorten this game. They've got to make sure they possess the ball, hold on to the ball late in games. Also, the Titans have a pretty good run defense. It's one of the better run defenses left in the of all the 12 playoff teams. So I think that's kind of something you look at late in the game is can Kansas City establish the run and put the game away? Can they? You know what I mean? At some point you're going to have to go on one of these long drives. If you can't run the ball, it makes it a little tough to kind of salt away the clock. That kind of points to the fact that maybe this game stays a little bit closer than it probably should. In the long run, let me see what else I have in my stats here. It's just, again, 9 points just seems like a lot. Especially with I gave you guys a stat earlier in the season. Again, it's not 10 points, but Andy Reid's terrible against the spread when it comes to double digits since he was hired in Kansas City. I think that's another thing too. Coaching. Mike Mularkey, not a great head coach in the NFL. I don't think anybody's going to sit here and say he's a top 5 guy, but Andy Reid tends to have some issues this time of year. So that's another thing that I kind of look at.
Yeah, but those issues are against like the Patriots, the Steelers, not someone like.
Here's the other thing: the Chiefs have lost their last 5 playoff home games. Lost.
Yeah. Owen
lost.
That's interesting.
That's insane.
The Titans are a good team to turn that around against.
Titans shouldn't be in the playoffs. Against the spread at home in their playoffs since 1980.
I forgot to mention this. This is actually I think the one thing I kind of look at is the biggest thing. I can't believe I didn't think of this when I was just talking, but red zone. I think that you look at the Chiefs are one of the worst red zone teams, I think, in the entire league. Not even just among the teams that are left in the playoffs. Titans were pretty good in the red zone. So I think that's one of those things where if the Titans can turn one field goal into a touchdown, and they could turn one of the Chiefs' touchdowns into a field goal, that's an 8-point swing. That's a lot.
Yeah, if they can get to there, you're going to turn the ball over.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. If they that's why they have to make sure they establish the run. Sure, I could just as easily see this being a 30-10 game, and if it is, it's because the Titans turn over the ball a lot. But
something we also didn't talk about. I think special teams. You got to give that advantage to the Chiefs too. I mean,
I sat here and said that a couple weeks ago. You guys made fun of me.
Is it a 4:30 game?
Yeah.
This game you might be able to figure out how this game's gonna go by 4:50.
Yeah.
Because I think if you're the Chiefs and you come out and you score, I don't trust the Titans' ability to come back in a game because there is so much of an emphasis on the running game. They fall behind early and you expect Mariota. I don't think Mariota's healthy. I don't think he just hasn't looked right this year. I mean, you mentioned the numbers are just the numbers of a journeyman quarterback.
Yep.
I mean that's not Marcus Mariota. He looks a little less mobile this year. I don't know if that's playing a role. He's forced to do things that he's not really playing to his strengths all that much. I look at the Chiefs, they offensively much more diverse, much more explosive. So that's why I go back to I think they do win the game, but I'm going with the points, and I'll probably regret that.
Granted, Kansas City didn't have Kareem Hunt last year. These two teams played last year in December. It was, I don't know if you guys remember this, like the coldest game in Chiefs history. Titans ended up winning that game. And they were 2 for 2 in the red zone that game. The Chiefs were 1 for 4. They won that game like 18-16 or 17-15.
That was the week I came out and said Marcus Mariota would struggle because.
Right, exactly. I remember that as I was looking it up today. So
you got to mention the fact that Andy Reid turning over the play calling duties. That kind of led to their offensive turnaround. That could be a good thing going into the playoffs too, because this is generally where he lays a big fat egg.
Yep.
So maybe this year
this is fat egg.
This is the one thing that is a little bit different.
We'll see. All right, let's get into
let's go to Los Angeles.
The other Saturday game. I think this is the game of the weekend. I don't think that there's a whole lot of debate over that. The Atlanta Falcons, the defending NFC champions, go on the road, take on the millennial head coach Sean McVay and the Los Angeles Rams. OddsShark has this, as it currently stands, as a 6.5-point game in favor of the Rams. This is an 8:15 kick. Total here is 48.5, a little bit higher. Still, I think that's maybe a little value there on the over. I guess it kind of depends. You got to dig into the matchups here. Yeah. I've seen people say that this is going to be a shootout. I've seen people say it's going to be a defensive struggle. So I guess it kind of depends on where you fall there. But I think if you think it's going to hit the over, it's going to go way over. Two very good offenses.
I like the under in the game we just talked about.
Yeah,
that might be the play on Saturday at least. Under in the first game, over in the second game.
Yeah.
Weather won't be an issue in this one either. You get the LA weather. It's going to be fine. But it's really a captivating matchup. A lot of different storylines here. You've got the unproven Rams, a team that doesn't have a whole lot of playoff experience. In fact, I think they have the least amount of playoff experience of any team in the field. But, and you look at a team like the Falcons, plenty of playoff experience, but Is that a good thing? The last time they were in a playoff game, they blew the biggest lead in Super Bowl history. So, you know, be careful when you sit there and look at experience. Maybe not all experiences are created equal. So
I don't know about that, man.
Go ahead.
It's like you're leading Falcons.
2007, Old Spice commercial. Bruce Campbell, do you remember it? Comes out and says, if you have it, you don't need it. If you need it, you don't have it. Yep. He keeps walking around. At the end, it says experience is everything. If you've never had any of it ever, people just seem to know. That's what's going to happen in this one, the Falcons and Rams. The Rams, they have a bright future ahead of them. Jared Goff is going to be in many playoff games throughout his career, but it's their first go-around. It's just a very young team. Falcons, they're, again, second best yards per play differential in the NFL. I'm going to keep talking about this in this show because it's just, I love that stat. And here's another thing. Rams' ground defense has been very good. They allow a ton of yards on the ground. The Falcons have a great running game. I think they're going to eat the clock, keep it close, and eventually win it. And it's a tough game to pick, right? Falcons and Rams. You're giving 6.5 points to the Falcons, though. It becomes a little bit easier to pick.
This was the toughest game. I was leaning Falcons, and then I kind of did a little more research. I forget what point you made that I was going to hit on by doing that.
The ground defense.
No, I'll get to it. Go ahead.
All right. So
you're just too young.
The Falcons are one of the most frustrating teams in the NFL.
Oh, I know.
I'll tell you why. Yeah. There's so many things that are frustrating about him. You can point to Matt Ryan's inconsistency. Yeah. Julio Jones always seems to have some sort of health issue that crops up over the course of a season. But that defense, because I look at that defense should be better than it is. I mean, that you look at every single position, and they have guys that are borderline Pro Bowl talent.
A lot of speed.
A lot of speed. That was kind of their MO coming into this year. I think that speed works against them more than it really helps them in a lot of cases, especially in a game like this when you're going up against that Rams up-tempo offense. Because we've talked here several times and talked about how the Falcons, they run around like their hair's on fire. They don't tackle well. You're going up against a Rams offense that's going to rely on screen plays. A lot of Todd Gurley, you mentioned, just feed him the ball. It's kind of the key to success for them. I just think that I could see the Falcons getting into a situation where they wear down defensively. Saw that in the Super Bowl. It kind of negates their pass rush, too.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're relying on screen plays and up tempo, they're not going to be Vic Beasley's of the world not going to be able to pin their ears back and get after the quarterback. So I think it's a bad matchup for the Falcons defense, which is why I have no problem taking the point.
It's crazy. That's bold.
The point I was going to make, tough break for the Rams. Getting the defending conference champions, a team with experienced quarterback, a good head coach, going up against good defense. They win this week. They got to go play at Minnesota as opposed to even if you had been the 4th seed.
The NFC is like,
you know what I mean? You look at if they had lucked out and been the 4th seed for some reason, then you don't have to play the Falcons in the wild card round, and then you get Carolina coming to you, and then if you win that game, then you go to Philadelphia and without Carson Wentz as opposed to having to go to Minnesota. So now they've got a tougher road to hoe. That being said, I think they get through this week. I think they cover as well. I'm going to take the Rams. You look at, and this is another thing too, is who's playing well at the end of the season, who's had to do what, who's healthy, all these different things. I look at this Falcons team, and sure they've played a little bit better toward the end of the season, but I think they had 4 straight divisional games to end the season. Those are tough games, and that's a good division too. Yeah. That takes its toll. You get banged up. Now you've got a short week because you're playing on Saturday, and you've got to travel across the country to take on a Rams team that by and large got to rest its starters last week. So it was almost like a de facto bye when you consider the fact that the Rams were able to rest some guys and the Falcons had to play balls to the wall, and that took its toll. And you want to talk about the big thing for you is trenches, right? Andy Levitri, the Pro Football Focus ranks him the number 17's best offensive guard in football. He's out. He's on injured reserve. Alex Mack, the center, great. One of the best offensive linemen in all of the NFL. He's probably going to play. I think he played last week with a nagging calf injury, but you never know. He's not 100%. Now you get the best interior defensive lineman, best interior pass rusher in the game in Aaron Donald. That's tough when you got injuries up the middle, and now you're facing a guy who rushes the passer from the middle like an edge rusher. That's tough. I think that ends up making the difference. I think he makes a couple big plays late. If they're getting after Matt Ryan, especially with pressure from the inside, they don't have to blitz. That allows them to get a little bit more creative in the secondary. I think that's kind of a way that they neutralize the run game too. Also, you look at the coordinator matchup here, Wade Phillips versus Steve Sarkisian. I think there's an advantage there for the Rams as well with Wade Phillips. So I think they get a little more creative, find ways to slow down that running game, or at least make the Falcons a little one-dimensional. So, and Julio Jones also a little banged up. He took a vicious hit last week against Carolina.
I ain't saying the Falcons are perfect. I mean, but the numbers, they don't lie. They're great. We are play differential, and I agree with you in the trenches. That's why it's so hard for me to pick the Falcons in this one. But again, 6.5 points. I'm not saying the Falcons win this game. 6.5 points is a little too big for an experienced team like the Falcons. The Rams might be stagnant in the first half, for all I know. They might fall behind 13-0 and then come back and win. But I don't know. I think the only way the Rams cover that spread is if the Falcons are down by 3 and they have to do those laterals at the end. And we've seen this happen like 5 times this year, where the laterals gets fumbled and the other team returns it for a touchdown.
Whatever works.
Happens every week. It happened to the Raiders-Eagles on Christmas, right?
Yeah, we got that cover there, backdoor cover, or at least the push.
Big emphasis on the punting game this week. Johnny Hecker.
Yeah.
Special teams, you mentioned about the Chiefs. I think they got the advantage here. Although Greg Zuerlein going on IR.
That's interesting.
Could be an underrated.
When they have to, well, actually. It works out for them because if you catch, you got to find a guy who can kick, but it doesn't look like they're gonna have to play in the conditions because it's gonna be nice Sunday or Saturday. Go to a dome for the divisional round, and then maybe you have to go to New Orleans for the conference championship. So it's getting way too far ahead of ourselves. So anyway, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's go to Sunday.
Oh,
this is the worst
I
playoff
love this game.
I actually love this.
This sucks.
I don't know why. I think it's something weird about it.
It's just,
and it could be awful.
Who would have thought that in August it was going to be this game?
The Buffalo Bills, with the miracle of all miracles. I was sitting there on New Year's Eve.
This is a London game.
Watching.
They should play this in London.
Watching the Bengals. Bengals-Ravens game. The Bills need the Bengals to win that game to get in, and the Ravens inexplicably can't tackle a backup tight end. And the Bills are in the playoffs.
They should play this game at 9:30 in the morning, even on American soil.
The Bills have to go to Jacksonville now. The Jaguars, 9-point favorites here. I think anything that tells you how any other team in this situation, playing a home game, even in the wild card round, going up against the Bills and how flawed they are, should at least be a 10.5-point favorite. They're only 9-point favorites against.
Didn't these two teams actually play in London last year, though? I think they did.
The Jags play half their games over there.
Yeah, I was going to say, the odds are in their favor.
So
it'll probably happen at some point.
Like I said, the Jags 9-point favorites here. The total currently sits at 39.5, which is so low. That's another one I might lean under there. Again, it's a little dicey, but like I said, Jags 9-point favorites. Ricky, why don't you start them?
Yeah, I'll take the Jags. I just look at this, and I know this is one of your favorite stats. Sack percentage, opponent sack percentage.
I'd say there was my,
I mean, it's the thing that jumps off the page, really. It's the Bills. They can't really protect the quarterback that well. The only two teams are worse opponent sack percentage than the Bills are the Colts and the Texans. You know what happened to those two teams?
They got sacked 10 times.
They got sacked 10 times in a game against the Jacksonville Jaguars this year. You also look at the Bills' run defense, not that great. And on the flip side, the run offense, we don't know LaShawn McCoy's status. So, going into this week, without having him, then I think this spread jumps up even more. I mean, it's certainly... his availability significantly impacts this game. So I want to find a way to pick the Bills here, but at home as well, as good as the Jacksonville defense is playing, I'll take the Jags.
Yeah, Jacksonville, on the flip side of the trenches, they've allowed the third fewest sacks, and the Bills, you said they don't get to the quarterback. What are they, 27th in sacks? Oh, sorry, that's in yards per play differential, which is also bad. The Bills are 27th in yards per play differential, dead last among playoff teams. Jacksonville has the second best, tied with Atlanta. Here are others. I don't want to steal your points, but the Jaguars, second in interceptions, second in sack percentage, second in sacks, first in yards allowed per pass attempt, first in completion percentage allowed. They're in the top ranking categories of every defensive category. Buffalo peaked. There's celebrations that they've been having. They peaked.
It's pretty amazing that, just real quick, I forget where I was reading this, but it was basically like one of those Pythagorean theorems, like the Pythagorean formula as to like what your win expectancy should be. And based on point differential and all that, I think it had Buffalo to like 7.4 wins or something.
I was going to say,
and the
6-10 team,
who they bounced, was 10.5. Yeah. So, I mean, that just speaks to I think if you would align those two teams up in a play-in game to get in, I think the Ravens dump truck.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, the Bills. I mean, I don't want to say bad things about Bills Mafia because they are relentless and they're good people. It seems like they just like throwing stuff through fire and bouncing each other's heads through tables and stuff.
As much as I rip it I love the fact.
I will be at a Bills bar here in Boston for that game.
But they are atmosphere. They are the anti.
There's like 3 of them in Boston.
They're the anti-Chargers, really. Like they just are. As you think about it, you start looking at the numbers and you start looking at the matchups, especially if LaShawn McCoy isn't going to play or if he's not.
Did you say they're the anti-Chargers?
Yeah. They're like, you want to sit here and talk about how great the Chargers are. Like the Bills are a team that, the Bills I would use as an argument
in their fan base.
Against me. No, I'm saying like.
I mean, their fan base are the anti-Chargers.
Yeah, that's true. But like, I'm just saying as a team that like they, I guess you get credit for getting in the playoffs, but this is a team that should not be in the playoffs.
That bar you go to, then there would be Chargers in a playoff game.
Exactly. So, yeah, this is like one of the worst playoff teams I can remember in a long time, right? I mean, I don't.
T-Bowl Broncos, probably?
Yeah, I guess.
And
at least
won.
they had a good defense, though.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bills' defense isn't terrible, but they don't get after the quarterback. Again, they have, you guys mentioned the sack percentages. They have the lowest sack percentage on defense of the teams remaining in the playoffs, and they have the worst sack percentage against of the teams left in the playoffs. They don't get after the quarterback, and they don't protect their own quarterback. And the only chance they had of protecting their quarterback was giving the ball to LaShawn McCoy 58 times, and if he can't go, if he's banged up, what the hell's going to happen? I mean,
we've also allowed the 4th most rushing yards in the NFL, and Jacksonville is number 1 in rushing.
One thing, Jacksonville is going to get its ass whooped at some point in this playoff. Sorry, Emerson, it's just one of those things where I just don't. Blake Bortles has got to go on the road and win at some point. And sure, we're looking ahead here. I'm taking the Jags, by the way, as well. We're looking ahead here. They got to go to Pittsburgh next week, probably. I mean, they beat Pittsburgh earlier in the season, but that was a Ben Roethlisberger 5-interception special. I don't think that happens again. And like I said, Blake Bortles is going to be the reason this team loses at some point because they got to go on the road, and he stinks on the road. Much better at home. This is insane. They are at home this week, so I like Blake Bortles this week. He completes nearly 10% more passes at home. 10%, that's insane. 1.3
the Clevelander.
1.3 more yards per attempt. 1.3. So on the road, he's 6.4 yards per attempt. At home, 7.7. Michael Lombardi likes to throw out this stat a lot. Like 7 is the barometer. Like if you're at 7, that's like league average. 7.7, that's elite. Yeah. 6.4, that is dog doo-doo. So, and again, his passer rating is 30 points higher at home. And his touchdown interception ratio is much better. He's a good quarterback at home. He's terrible on the road. I think they win this. They should win this game by like 30 points. I'm not even
forget
30-3.
The Bills also primarily made the playoffs because of that blizzard game against the Colts. That was a coin toss. I mean, whoever got one lucky run in that game.
Yeah, it just tells you how Vegas
Adam Vinatieri's
or
extra point,
the boomerang extra point. Yeah. Never seen anything like it.
It just like I said, the fact that it's only a 9-point spread just seems. Maybe we're missing something here. And I think most of the bets are coming in on Buffalo right now too. Maybe we're just idiots. I don't know. That's circling the wagons.
Let's go to the big easy.
Wouldn't it be so like Patriot-esque though if all of the Bills find a way to win this game? We were talking about this earlier. That next thing you know, the Patriots are playing this team that they just blew out twice in the past few weeks.
They didn't get an offensive touchdown against them.
Yeah, they play them and then watch. Then next week, Kansas City beats Pittsburgh, and all of a sudden they're hosting a beat-up Kansas City team in the AFC Championship. It would just be such a Patriot.
Meanwhile, in the NFC, it's a gauntlet.
And it's a gauntlet, man. It's a dogfight.
Jacksonville, by the way, 3-0 against the spread this season when favored by 7 or more.
Nice.
Sunday afternoon, late afternoon, NFC South rematch of the rematch, whatever it is at this point. The third matchup between these two teams. Carolina heads to New Orleans, take on the Saints. Saints currently sit as 7-point favorites, according to Oddshark. Total set at 48.5. New Orleans won both meetings between these two teams. Week 3 in New Orleans, they won that one 34-13. And Week 13 in Carolina, 31-21. So New Orleans has had its way with the Panthers so far this season. Do you see being any differently?
Absolutely not. It's been the same way. And here is the ultimate some good yards per play differential research yesterday. Went back to 2012. In 2012, the San Francisco 49ers were number 1 in yards per play differential. What did they do that year? They lost in the Super Bowl. The next year, the Seahawks number 1 in yards per play differential. What did they do that year? They won the Super Bowl. The year after that, Seahawks number 1 again. They lost in the Super Bowl, and they should have won against the Patriots if they had ran the ball into the end zone. 2015, Broncos number 2 in yards per play differential. What did they do that year? They won the Super Bowl. 2016, Patriots and Falcons go 1 and 2 in yards per play differential. They met in the Super Bowl. This year, the Saints are number 1 in the yards per play differential. Mike Cole, you made fun of me on Twitter. You said, "Oh, the Saints won the yards per play Stanley Cup."
Oh, I was talking about the
Corsi
Chargers.
Cup,
I was talking about the Chargers.
No, they didn't win. The Chargers didn't win.
No,
the
I know,
yards per
but
play.
you were arguing that the Chargers were a great team because they had yards to play.
Yes,
it is an important stat, but they did not get in the playoffs because they didn't win enough games.
They missed a few kicks in week 3. Saints number 1 in yards per play differential. This is a Super. This is my Super Bowl pick. The Saints. They're going to go to the Super Bowl, and you heard it here in the wild card week of the spread. Carolina, the only shot they have in this game is if they get to the quarterback. But guess what? The Saints allowed 20 sacks this year, second fewest. I love the Panthers pass rush, but that's going to be tough against that Saints offensive line. Saints have a better quarterback, better running back, just as good of a defense. They force turnovers at a better rate than the Panthers do. And Cam Newton, 16 interceptions this year. That's worse than Marcus Mariota.
Reggie.
Yeah, I like the Saints as well. I mean, I looked at this initially, and I'm like, I don't know how much stock I want to put into the 2 regular season games going into this, but it's hard to ignore how lopsided it was. Even that one game, even the last one, I think it was 31-14 until late in the game, and then there's a garbage time touchdown. I just don't trust Cam Newton to make a play if this gets into a shootout. Keep him in the pocket, force him to throw, and that's really the key. But for any team facing the Panthers, really, is to keep him in there, make him be the passer that I don't think he wants to. Yeah, that he's not, and that you allow him to get into space, that's when he beats you. I just don't see the Saints, allowing that to happen. I trust Drew Brees as well in this situation. A lot of good quarterbacks in this NFC playoffs. You want to talk about the gauntlet? I trust Drew Brees more than I trust Cam Newton. That's really what it boils down to.
Carolina, great time possession team. Great time. And I think that's another. I like that stat too in the playoffs. Can you hold on to the ball, keep it out of the hands of a good offense, do whatever you want to do. They're second to only Minnesota and Philadelphia in time of possession this year. They could run the football. New Orleans can't run the football or can't stop the run or has had trouble stopping the run. Panthers average 148 yards per game on the ground in the 2 games against New Orleans, and it didn't matter. Yeah. The Saints still blew their doors up. Same thing happens this weekend. It's just. Everybody sits here, you're going to hear this a lot. It's really hard to beat a team 3 times in one season. ESPN pointed out 13 of 20 times since 1970, teams that they've had this situation in the playoffs. The team that won the first 2, 13 times out of 20, won the 3rd game. It happens more often than you think. It's not as hard as it seems.
Yeah, it's not as hard when you're the better football team.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's something to be
Panthers
said.
are also a different team on the road than at home.
Yeah, so here's the other thing, too. Marshawn Lattimore missed both games. Marshawn Lattimore, the presumptive rookie, defensive rookie of the year, missed both games.
And it didn't matter.
And it didn't matter. It's a one-dimensional offense in terms of, can Cam improvise and find a way to make plays. And if you're taking out literally all of their receivers, it's going to be tough. The game plan this week in the Saints offices just has to be, let's keep Cam in the pocket and let him complete 50% of his passes like he does every week, and we'll take our chances. Especially with that offense, especially with that, the fact that, we sit here and talk about the Panthers, and they have a nice defense theoretically, right? They miss a lot of tackles. They miss a ton of tackles, including 12 tackles in Week 13 against the Saints. They just Swiss cheese. That's tough when you're going up against Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram coming out of the backfield. A lot of different options offensively for New Orleans. And again, Carolina, they love to blitz. They're going to blitz a lot. They blitz as much as any team in the league. In fact, they blitz more than just about anybody else. This is from CBS Sports' Sean Wagner-McGaugh. I just want to give him a little credit for this. He tweeted that the Panthers blitzed 44.7% of the time this year. The league average was 29. So that's a ton. They blitz a ton compared to everybody else. Drew Brees against the blitz, 8.3 yards per attempt and 101 passer rating. That's according to Pro Football Focus via my guy Sean. Drew Brees is as good as anybody else in the league against the rush. Go look at his career numbers against Carolina. They're great. They're even better in the last 3 or 4 times they've met. He tears his defense apart. He'll do it again on Sunday.
That was excellent. I love that stat. That's
7 points is
nice
tough,
stat.
Yeah, 7 points is tough in the playoffs.
Stat. You got 2 sources. You combine them together and made your own. You should tweet that.
He already tweeted. I'll just go
I know, but,
retweet
like,
him.
You added that part though.
No, I didn't. I didn't add anything.
Nah,
I just
retweet
copied
him
pieces.
and put this.
This, yeah.
I'm
Uh,
just gonna leave this right here for you.
By the way,
Oh,
Saints.
people dropped that one.
I don't
I'm
like
just gonna
when
leave
they
this
do that.
right
They
here for
retweet
you.
and they
Hey, all right,
both
thanks,
tweet
guys.
and
It's
put
the
this.
worst. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
just
the worst.
retweet.
Yeah, exactly.
Check 'em out.
It's there's the buttons right there. Saints, by the way, 5-0 in the last five home playoff games, winning those by average margin of 11 points. That's insane.
Dome sweet dome.
11's more than
Yep.
7.
I tell you what, I'm just, a couple nice little appetizers here, but we're looking ahead to next week. Next week's going to be fantastic. And I tell you what, if we have a Final Four, we're getting way ahead of ourselves here, but if we get a Final Four of Patriots, Steelers, and Saints, Vikings, or maybe the Rams in there somewhere, I'm going to be a happy man.
I like Saints Vikings.
Saints,
Don't
Vikings
get
would be awesome.
wiped off the planet by this impending blizzard
Yeah.
that we got going on in the north.
Bust out some. It's New Year's, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. So
Oh, yeah.
we were gonna scrap show and tell this week, just for, playoffs. You figure, why do it? But I didn't think that was right. So I brought in some fortune cookies because I think that we should start the new year by, seeing what our fortunes are, not just in the football picking world, but, well, frankly, just how our luck's gonna go in general. So if you guys would like to each indulge in a fortune cookie here, you pick whatever one you'd like. You can read your fortune out loud. Just please don't get any crumbs on the desk, though.
Too late.
Let's get our ass
Good
kicked.
point. Yep.
What'd you start us off down there?
Me?
Yeah, what do you got?
All right.
What do you thought? Do you like fortune cookies?
Yeah, I love.
Fortune cookies are awesome.
Is
Yeah.
this from Moon Villa in Chinatown?
No, I love Moonville though.
Mine isn't really a fortune. It just says nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm.
Well, that
That's-
fits you. That
that's
fits
you.
you well.
I guess next time you tell me to be quiet, I'll show you this.
Why don't you go?
Nothing
'Cause
great
I
was
got
ever
one that I
achieved
think
without-
we should save for the end.
Well, this is pretty good too. Let the spirit of adventure set the tone.
Oh, sure.
So, wow, very adventurous 2018
Nice.
on tap.
I'm going to hold on to this one, and I think this is especially pertinent at the end of our football picks podcast. It says, financial prosperity is coming your way.
Oh! You heard the man.
Take him to the
You
bank.
heard the man.
Yeah.
You
So
heard the man.
I'm going to go get rich. We'll be back again next week, assuming I don't win the lottery and take my fat ass to Miami for the rest of my life and say, screw you guys. I'll fine. I don't care. I'll go to Antigua. I'll go to Mexico. I'm going wherever the goddamn snow isn't, and I'll be sitting there sipping on a Mai Tai because financial prosperity is coming my way.
Goodbye, Scratch.
I'm good. That's a good point. I'm going to go do that right now. So we'll be back again next week in the divisional round, but until then, enjoy the games this weekend, and we will see you again next week. Later.